The Partridge Family.
You know, Mom, if you weren't always busy cleaning the house, you wouldn't be so tired.
Each week, the Partridge Family answers the musical question, can the family that lives together sing together? Tune in, sing along. The Partridge Family.
Santa's bag is full of great gifts this Christmas from Norelco. He's got triple headers, the shavers the blades couldn't beat for closeness, and super fast ladies shavers. Our Better Cup of Coffee line, and healthful sun and heat lamps. The fast salon-style Norelco hair dryer, and our convenient travel press. Norelco, even our name says Merry Christmas.
Scene one, take three. Oh, hello. I'm Dave Madden. I'd like to tell you about a new series that premieres this fall on ABC. It's called The Partridge Family, and, well, here, let me show you a few shots taken behind the scenes on the Partridge Family set. I think you'll enjoy it. There's our star, Academy Award winner Shirley Jones. Shirley plays the mother of a musical family of 5. As the manager for these singing siblings, I have my work cut out for me.
I wanted you to be the first to know. I'm leaving the family.
You met a girl. Well, that's the Partridge Family. Bright, impish, and always grooving. See you in the fall on ABC.
Christmas 1971. And to add a bit of joy to your holiday season, Goodyear presents The Joyous Songs of Christmas. Starring Barbara Streisand, Andy Williams, Tony Bennett, Lena Horne, Danny Kaye, the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, Percy Faith, Johnny Mathis, Carol Burnett, Ray Conniff, Jim Nabors, the Lennon Sisters, Bobby Sherman, the Philadelphia Orchestra, Eugene Ormandy conducting. 14 artists, 14 selections to add to the joy of your Christmas. Only $1 at Goodyear service stores and most Goodyear dealers.
The Partridge Family, the ordinary American family. Doing chores, going to school, playing sold-out rock and roll concerts of their chart-busting hits, playing sold-out rock and roll concerts of their chart-busting hits. The Partridge Family is a family like none other, traveling the country in a strange painted bus.
Strange? You're calling my family strange?
Well,
Tracy, don't put that drumstick up your nose.
groove to the Partridge Family every weeknight at 8, 7 Central on Nick at Night.
Sitcom, all ye faithful, a Christmas podcast special, where for the 4th time I discussed 25 Christmas sitcom episodes. Please come and listen as we count down to Christmas. You should see Punky Porky Brewster, the Partridges and Benson, Michael J. Fox will return, and for one more year the Fonz will definitely have one last episode with the Fonz. Hello world, there's a song that we're singing. Come on, get happy. A whole lot of love is what we'll be bringing to make you happy, 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 happy Friday, everybody. Happy December 20th. Happy day 20 of sitcom, all ye faithful. It's December 20th. We're literally just 5 days away from Christmas. And that means after today, there's only 5 days left of sitcom, all ye faithful. And then, well then, my dear podcast listeners, you will have to wait until December 1st next year to hear a brand new episode of this special podcast. But fear not, because Geek Mentality will be back at the very latest. It will be March 1st if I don't do anything sooner before then. But I'm getting ahead of myself because it's still December 20th. It's still Sitcom All You Faithful, and I'm still here talking Christmas sitcom episodes. And today, I went all the way back to 1971. A time before I was alive, to talk about a musical comedy. I don't know I would just say it's a comedy about musicians. That's what I would call it, as I'm talking about the 13th episode of season 2 of the Partridge Family. Don't bring your guns to town, Santa. This episode is available for you to watch right now on Tubi for free. There is a link in the show notes. So if you want to go watch it on Tubi, I'm not waiting for you this time, okay? I'm plowing right through. So let's start how we always start, by saying a short prayer. Dear God, thank you so much for Sitcom All You Faithful. Okay, now let's go to the next thing, which is always looking at the TV listings for the evening that this show originally aired, December 17th, 1971. And I say always. It's been like that way for maybe the last 2 weeks, but I don't even think this year I started with looking at the TV listings. So it's always now going forward. This is a staple. This is a major part of Sitcom All You Faithful for years and years to come. And as we go back to 1971, remember, there's only 3 networks at this point. There's no, technically we got up to what? 6, because you could count UPN and the WB. They were putting out shows. I don't know if I've done anything from either of those networks yet. That would be interesting someday to touch on those shows, because I feel like most of them are considered garbage. How you say? Garbage? The rubbish, the crap. But it can't be completely that. There has to be, some reason for these shows. They lasted for years. I mean, for some reason, the first one that popped in my head was Malcolm and Eddie. I feel like that show was on for years. Maybe it wasn't, but I feel like it was. Maybe they had a good Christmas show. I don't know. Maybe someday we'll find out, but I'm not worried about that. I'm back in the 70s with only 3 networks, ABC, CBS, and NBC. And on NBC this evening, we have a brand new episode of The DA, The People versus Whitehead. Maybe it's a ZIT. It's an episode of Acne Crime. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. There's nothing listed for the 8:30, but at 9 p.m., there's a brand new movie called They Call It Murder. Ooh, who stars in that? Do they have a listing for that? No, they don't. It's just called They Call It Murder, and nobody ever thought of it after 1971. Now, over on the Tiffany Network, CBS, the Chicago Teddy Bears were on at 8 p.m. What the hell is that? Is it a Chicago Bears joke? Like, I don't know. At 8:30, there's a brand new episode of O'Hara, U.S. Treasury. The episode title, Operation Moonshine. Maybe they were going after those Duke boys. No, it takes place in Washington, D.C., starring David Jansen as Jim O'Hara. David Jansen, who was Dr. Richard Kimball in The Fugitive. Ooh, okay. But no one remembers O'Hara, U.S. Treasury. And then at 9:30 p.m., Dead Men Tell No Tales, a movie. Now, that was a real movie, right? This wasn't a made-for-TV movie. Maybe I'm just thinking of some kind of pirate thing. At ABC, I have no idea what's at 8 o'clock, but I will tell you that at least two of these shows everyone's heard of, because at 8:30, it's yours truly, the Partridge Family, with this episode, Don't Bring Your Guns to Town, Santa, followed at 9 p.m., by a brand new episode of Room 222. They Love Me, They Love Me Not. I don't know what Room 222 is, but I'm looking at a picture of it, and I'm looking at any names. No names look familiar. Nothing at all looks familiar about this show, but it was a drama based on the real life of Los Angeles High School. Ooh. Then at 9:30, a brand new episode of The Odd Couple. There you go. Another classic television program. But we're talking about, I think Partridge Family is it considered a classic or is it considered a favorite? Now, am I just coming up with classifications? Classics are like, oh, these are the top of the line comedies that stood the test of time, where family favorites are ones that are like, the Brady Bunch. Is the Brady Bunch a classic, or is it just a kind of a middling show that became a favorite because it was just bombarding like the youth of the 80s, in reruns daily, where it's like, oh my God, Bobby's hair's orange again. And then we restart the whole cycle because that was the series finale, when Bobby's hair Greg's hair turned orange, that orange-haired son of a bitch. So is the Partridge Family considered a classic or a favorite? I don't know. But it stood the test of time. It is, something that people remember. I mean, that theme song comes on. If you are of a certain age, you know that theme song. I was singing along without it. I'm not sure how many of these episodes I've caught, because I feel like I must have caught some, because I was like, oh, there's Mr. Kincaid, and I knew he was the manager, and I knew they were musicians. So I must have caught a couple here and there, but nothing like, I couldn't remember one thing. If you said, oh, I watched that episode with blank. Nope. No idea at all. And yet I remember, Keith Partridge, David Cassidy, the late David Cassidy. I remembered Susan Day before L.A. Law, Danny Bonaducci before, I don't know, steroids. Then there were the two other kids and Mr. Kincaid. And of course, Shirley Jones as Shirley Partridge. Shirley Jones, this is I believe her second, I don't think she's had any more, her second appearance on Sitcom All You Faithful. If you remember, she was dating Drew Carey in the Drew Carey Christmas episode that I covered last year. And she's much younger here. And when they put that long wig on her, I was like, who is that? Oh, wait, that's the mom. Hubba. And when I say long wig, it's because 90% of this episode is a fantasy. But it was a fun episode because, for people who love the show, and this is the second season, so it already must have a big listenership. Is that viewership? Viewership. It must be fun to see the characters that in these weird, in a storytelling role where they're playing the characters in a story. Because the way this episode starts, we see them performing, and I wonder if every episode started with a concert. I don't remember. So we see them performing, and then they are heading back on the bus. Now, they had a gig in Vegas right on Christmas Eve, and are they a struggling band because mom's driving the bus? Like, I feel like they should, if they were successful, they'd at least have a driver who helped them. Now, I know they have Mr. Kincaid, but he's their manager. Maybe he should be driving. I'm not saying Shirley can't be driving, like, oh, how dare she be driving? I'm saying, why would she want to drive? I would be like, why am I driving? I'm the friggin', mom of this singing family. I don't know the history of like where the dad is. I don't know if Mr. Kincaid and Shirley Partridge ever, if I don't know if Mr. Kincaid ever went up the Partridge's pear tree, if you know what I mean. So I don't know exactly what the dynamic is, or if she forced these kids into singing, if they sang with the dad and then the dad, I don't know, something bad happened. I don't know. And I don't read any of the history, before going in for most of these shows. So I'm like, I didn't even remember who was who. I think I remember the one of the girls or one of the boys wasn't always on the show. I looked up to see who's still alive, and the majority of the cast is still alive. Obviously, Mr. Kincaid, Dave Madden. If I heard the name Dave Madden, no idea. But if you say Mr. Kincaid or Reuben Kincaid, I know right away. He's no longer with us. Tracy, the youngest daughter, actually, she is no longer with us. She passed away. I was looking at it earlier today. She passed away in 2015, unfortunately, with some sort of heart issue. Susan Day is still with us. David Cassidy, unfortunately, passed away. Shirley Jones is still with us. And Danny Bonaducci isn't going anywhere. Remember, I feel like he came on big in the 90s. And I want to be like, he probably was in so many commercials where he's like, dial this number to save 10 cents on your long distance calls. Like he did something like that. And I think he had a radio gig for a while because he did have a good kind of like voice, like a DJ voice, or, that 90, I'm a shock jock voice. Hey. And so I know that he was in and around radio, and I'm sure he has a whole category on TMZ about him, but he's still kicking. And that's really it. There's an old guy in this episode, and there's a character actor in this episode that I recognize. His name is Britt Leach. I don't know why I recognize him. He was in The Great Outdoors. He was in Weird Science, The Last Starfighter. The last thing he did was Father the Bride, Quantum Leap Coach. I mean, he was in so many TV shows going back to the 70s, but he was also in like certain movies. Was he in anything? I mean, Hill Street Blues, Dallas, just a guy that was everywhere. MASH. Was he in anything for a long period of time? Not really. The Waltons, 5 episodes. So he is just The Love Boat, Spencer's Pilot. So there you go. Never heard of it. So he's been around. He kind of looks like, if you can't get Gomer Pyle, who the hell's Gomer Pyle? You know what I mean? If you can't get him, then you go and get this guy. Because very similar look. Jim Nabors. If you can't get Jim Nabors, Bert got Jim Nabors to be in Stroker Race, but if he couldn't, then he could have turned to this Britt Leach dude, and I feel like it would have at least visually worked. I don't know as far as that beautiful voice that Jim Nabors has, but anyway, that has nothing to do with anything going on in this episode. It's just that as I said, the band was driving back from Vegas, and the bus dies. That beautiful painted bus that is very iconic with the show dies, and they die they die. The whole thing was a dream. They died the whole time. The bus died, and they were stalled, and they were stranded on Christmas Eve. Get this, outside a ghost town. A ghost town that I feel like is the same ghost town that the Bradys got stuck in on their way to the Grand Canyon. It just looked like straight out of the back lot of a filming studio. I mean, there must have been a guy there. If you look under credits, it's like Jim Smith, tumbleweed wrangler, because there were so many tumbleweeds blown. That's like, we need more tumbleweeds. Jim, get over there. I'm trying. And he's running over, throwing them into the middle of the street. So they break down. But didn't the Bradys get thrown in jail? Unlike the Bradys, the Partridges are met by this old dude who is like the sweetest guy ever. And, you feel bad for him. Old Charlie. He's like, it's me, old Charlie. And his donkey. There was just the two of them. And they're like, oh, you broke down right in front of this my old town. And come on in. I'll give you something to drink or some warm soup or whatever. And the kids are all worried that they're going to be stuck there and that Santa's not going to find them. And Charlie's like, well, you see, this town used to have has a silver bell. And the silver bell, when it rings, lets Santa know no matter what, wherever you are, Santa will find you on Christmas and he will find this town. So he's found it. In fact, this place wasn't always a ghost town. It used to be hustling and bustling. And then we get a story of his, and it shows the town much brighter, much nicer, all cleaned up, bright. And we see the story of a small town that has a Christmas bell and where a bad guy goes in to try to steal it. And who are playing all these characters? It's all the cast of the show. So we see there's a sheriff in town who's also kind of the town crier. It's David Cassidy, Keith Partridge, with a guitar. He's dressed in bright blue. You know, like when in Back to the Future 3, where they kind of joke at what Marty McFly wears as his Western shirt. It almost is in that vein where it's very bright, very silly. And the fun running joke with him is that he's an idiot. I like the fact that David Cassidy, I don't know if Keith Partridge played that way, if he was too cool, or if he was like kind of the buffoon. I'm not sure. I don't know. So seeing him like this was fun because it wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting him to be perfect and all the girls in the town go, "Sheriff, Sheriff," and he had to beat them off. No. He was an idiot, and all he could do was play one chord and sing a line about things that were happening right in front of them. It annoyed everyone. At one point, they were like, the bad guy even said something terrible about him in the town. All the people in the town clapped and cheered because they liked him. So they are hanging out in town, and all of a sudden, they're getting dressed, decorating for Christmas, and all of a sudden, Mean Sidney shows up, and it's Reuben Kincaid. And he's dressed all in black, and he's popping balloons. He's taking out his gun and smashing Christmas ornaments. I mean, it's just funny. He goes right into the saloon because Shirley Jones runs the saloon. I think she gives lollipops to kids, and she gives one to Keith. So Shirley Partridge is running the saloon. He goes in. Next thing you know, the kids run out. The bell's gone. The bell's gone. Somebody stole the bell. And Reuben Kincaid, who's now Mean Sidney, is dressed all in black, and he's carrying a bell covered in black, but it's the shape of a bell. He's like, "This is my shaving kit. This isn't a bell. How dare you say that?" And they're like, "Give us the bell back." So they, Laurie Partridge goes over, tries to, Susan Day's character, she's the school teacher, tries to go over and sweet talk Mean Sidney, and she walks back. He's really mean. Like, I guess we have to turn to the sheriff. So they go to Keith. And he's like, "I'll talk to him. And if I can't talk to him, I'll sing to him." And the next thing you know, he's getting thrown out of the saloon on his back. He's like, "Well, it didn't work." So then they have to go to, I forget what they call the guy, Little Man or whatever, like the little hero. And in rides Danny Partridge. I like that Shirley's Shirley, Danny's Danny, but everyone else has different names. So Danny comes in. He's dressed all in white. He was a former card shark who would, cheat at cards or whatever, or whatever. He was a gambler. Maybe not cheat at cards, but he was a gambler. And he turned to a life of law enforcement, and he shows up all in white, and he challenges Mean Sidney to a card game. And I forget what happens. Oh, they go to play cards for the bell. So all of a sudden, little Danny Bonaducci, his character, is really good at cards, and he's winning. Reuben Kincaid at $1,300. Danny started with 43 cents, but he started winning all the money. And then he's like, "Fine, Mean Sidney, put your bell up for collateral." He's like, "I'm not going to give you my bell. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to win the bell back. You're not going to fall for it." Then all of a sudden, they start hearing, oh my God, they start hearing bells. And oh no, I'm sorry. It's very weird. They start hearing it sounds like the Chipmunks. But they were singing a song. They're like, "What the hell was that?" I didn't say that. "What was that?" And Shirley says, "I think that was the sound of 8 tiny reindeer. Like, it can't be." So they all run outside, and there's gifts and a beautiful tree everywhere. And they're like, "How did this happen?" And they said, "It turns out we didn't need the bell at all. we just, Santa knew where we were and we had the Christmas spirit, so Santa would come anyway. And Mead Sidney, Mr. Kincaid's like, that's ridiculous. Santa never gives me anything, but I always hear your bell and I know he comes to you. That's why I was stealing your bell. So something would give, so Santa would come to me. He goes, I have the Christmas spirit, but Santa ignores me. And then Shirley goes, well, why don't you keep the bell? It's our gift to you. He's like, what? I can't do that. That's not right. He goes, no, I tried to steal it. He goes, it doesn't matter. We don't need it. It's our gift to you. He goes, oh, geez, but it doesn't belong to me. Here, I'm giving it back to the town. So she's like, look at you. You gave away you got your first gift and you gave your first gift. You truly are in the Christmas spirit. So now he's all happy. And he's like, they said to him, aren't you tired of being mean? He's like, no, but I am tired of wearing this basic black. And they're like, oh, well, that's progress. So like they're trying to get Mean Sidney to be a little nicer. And it seems like the edge was coming off. And that was all the story that this old dude told them while Mr. Kincaid and Keith were outside, told the younger kids while, and Susan Day and Laurie Partridge. So Mr. Kincaid and somehow Keith knows stuff about cars. He fixed it. And they're like, we can go now. They're like, thank you so much, Charlie. This was he's like, thank you for saving our Christmas Eve. And he's like, that's wonderful. Thank you for coming. Anytime you can come by, anytime. And so they drive away and you just see him standing there. And he's like, goodbye, family. Goodbye. And you're like, this is getting depressing. So he goes back in the house and he sits down. Now, I don't know if time had passed. It seemed like time must have passed because he goes back in the house. He sits down and he's like, Christmas is all alone. I think maybe I went to commercial. And then, because there was only one commercial break from Tubi, which I appreciate. And then we stay with the old timer. I was like, oh, that's weird. I thought the episode might be over. Or we go with them back to Christmas. We stay with the old time Charlie. And he is going into his little house. I don't know why he lives there alone, but he's just a little sad. And then all of a sudden you hear Christmas carols singing outside. And he's like, what is this? And he goes outside and he looks. And you just see, again, with the Donna Reed show, they had Buster Keaton as Santa, like tearing up, very dramatic. This guy, we just see his face, a one shot of him tearing up. And then you turn and you see the Partridges all standing there, serenading him, holding gifts, with Keith is playing guitar. They're all singing a Christmas song. And, they're like, then they run up, give him gifts. They're like, Merry Christmas, Charlie, Merry Christmas. And they spend the night with Charlie. It's a wonderful little family, just heartwarming thing where they go back to this guy who seems like, Charlie, you could just go with him back to civilization. But Charlie's like, no, I'm wanted. I'm wanted for many murders. I can't. I must stay here. So that didn't happen. But he did get to have a nice Christmas. Oh, at first, before he hears the bell ringing, that's what he hears first, the bell ringing, which doesn't make any sense. He looks outside and the silver bell is ringing because when they left, the kids look up and they go, that's not a silver bell. He goes, oh, what do you know? Someone must have swapped it out, because he was just telling a story. But then there's a friggin' silver bell ringing and then they turn and there's the Partridges singing. Now, I don't know how that happened. That's got to be some sort of Christmas magic, I guess. I don't know if they climbed up there and put a bell up there. I don't know, but it doesn't need to be explained. That's what I love about these ridiculous Christmas shows and some of the magic and, fantastical things that happen. They don't need to be explained and they're never discussed again. That's a Christmas episode. It is a standalone thing. So they sing to him and then that's it. We go back the next day. It's Christmas Day and the Partridges are all sitting around and little Tracy pulls out mistletoe and she gets a kiss from all her brothers. And even though Danny puts up a fight, and then she's like, now can we open gifts? And they all huddle together and they're thinking about it. Then they turn and all look at us, the audience, and say, Merry Christmas. They break the fourth wall and they look at us and say, Merry Christmas. And that is the end of Don't Bring Your Guns to Town, Santa, which I guess is a play on a Johnny Cash song. But we never saw Santa. I really thought we were going to go outside and see Santa, or I thought Charlie was going to be Santa. At one point, he was going to say, all right. And he says to his mule, time to get to work. Then he gets up and it's not his mule, it's a reindeer. And he grabs his red coat and he leaves. Like we don't even see him become Santa. We just see him grab a red coat and walk out. And ho, 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 and then we hear it going away. That would have been awesome, but they didn't do that. They just kept it that this guy's just a hermit who just wants to hang out with families every so often, and they gave him some nice gifts. I don't know what the hell they would give this guy, but hopefully it fit. And that's it. That is the end of this episode. Really just cute and fun, and I'm glad I watched it. I thought there was going to be more music in it. Like there was, Keith going around kind of jokingly strumming his guitar and saying one line here or there. There was them singing to Charlie at the end, and then there was them at the very beginning at a gig, on a concert. But that was it. I thought there'd be literally like musical interludes, almost like a music video within the episode, but there was not. If there was only a show that did that. Anyway, my friends, that's it for day 20. We are all done. And now I think I've touched upon every single mention in this year's theme song except for one. Except for one. But we know what that is. And we know what day that is. And we're still 5+ days away till that one, something like that. That's math. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 5 days away. So listen, until then, you know where you can find me, right? You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Mastodon.social, and Blue Sky. Blue Sky's the big one right now, at Geek Mentality. You can find me on TikTok, at Geek Mentality Mike. My latest TikTok has the most views I've ever had, and it's just me watching and talking about the new Superman trailer, and I'm so excited for that. I already told my wife, July 11th, we're busy. We're going to IMAX. We're going to IMAX. And I said it just like that, and she was like, okay, fine. So you can find me, on all those social media places. You can find the Facebook page is Fans Not Experts. The YouTube channel is Fans Not Experts. And the website is fansnotexperts.com. So that's it. I'm done. Oh my gosh. I mean, there's going to be a lot going on here. On Sunday, I'm going to be talking to my cousin about a sitcom. On Monday, I'm going to be doing a It's a Wonderful Life watch-along for Fine Movies, Fine Spirits. So I got to get that all squared away, figure that out. And on Tuesday, it's Christmas Eve, going back to that same friend's house to enjoy Christmas Eve. Wednesday, Christmas Day, where I will be watching football, enjoying gifts and family, and going to my brother's house, where I'll be making meatballs. But that's still, I feel like I'm getting too far ahead. I mean, it's only Friday. We do have snow on the ground here in Massachusetts, so it feels a little bit like Christmas is in the air, and it doesn't hurt that Mr. Kincaid was here as well. So that's it. I'm done. I'll be back tomorrow. I hope you will be here too. But until then, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. And here is my theme song. This is my podcast. I made it. Geek Mentality's what I named it. And I think you should listen and subscribe. 'Cause I'm kinda funny and awesome. I think that I'm worth your time, and I'm kinda handsome. My mom says, please listen and please subscribe. At least listen to this episode.
Fans Not Experts.